Okay, everyone, this is Carter Howarth back again to do lesson 9-4. The 8th graders are still in DC, so I'm going to be narrating this lesson. Vocabulary. Zero product property. For any real number a times 0 equals 0. So it's saying 2 times 0 equals 0. Sorry, looks like we're having some technical difficulties. Just kidding. Here we go again. 2 times 0 equals 0. 3 times 0 equals 0, so on and so forth. With a and b, if a equals 0 or b equals 0, then b equals 0. So if a is 2 but b is 0, 2 times 0 equals 0. Zero factor property. If a times b equals 0, then either a is 0 or b is 0. Example 1. What are the solutions to the equation? So our equation is x plus 1 times x minus 5 equals 0. So let's look at this with the zero product property, which means x plus 1 equals 0 and x plus 5 equals 0. So we have those right here. And then we're saying, so let's subtract 1 here and add 5 here to make it x. So then we have x equals -1 and x equals +5 because we're just getting x on one side, just like you would solve a normal equation. So those are solutions. X equals -1, x equals 5. Try doing this one on your own. If you want, you can pause the video real quick. B is 2y plus 1 and 2y plus 1 times y plus 14 equals 0. Okay, now we're going to solve this, and let's see here. So, first step is the zero product property. So just like we did earlier, we're going to have 2y plus 1 equals 0, and then y plus 14 equals 0. So you basically split it into two chunks. Now, we're just going to solve the equation, simple as that. So y equals -14 because you're subtracting 14. And then this one is y equals -0.5 because you're going to have -1 by subtracting the 1 and then divide by 2. So the answers are y equals -1/2 or 0.5 and y equals -14. These are your solutions. Example 2, solving by factoring. So let's take a look at this equation real quick. X squared plus 11x plus 10 equals 0. So, if you remember way back in the past lessons, you learned how to factor. So what we're saying here is what has the product of 10 and the sum of 11. So this one's pretty simple. If you take 1 times 10, it equals 10. 1 plus 10 equals 11. That one was a pretty easy one to factor. So we're just going to do this. X plus 1, because one of our numbers is 1, and x plus 10. So if you don't know how to factor, I recommend learning that first before you continue this video because that's a pretty influential part. So factoring is what I just wrote up here. This is our factoring. Now the zero product property, so this is what we did in example 1 right here, isn't it? Yes, so we're going to take the zero product property and make it x plus 1 equals 0 or x plus 10 equals 0. So then, our solutions, after subtracting 1 and subtracting 10, is x equals -1 or x equals -10. Those are your two solutions. Now, this is the same thing as the last one. You're going to be factoring, and you need to solve this one on your own. So, if you want to pause the video, go ahead and do a quick solve, and I'll be continuing. Okay, g squared plus 4g minus 32 equals 0. That is our full equation. So first, we need to factor this equation. So what multiplied equals -32 and added equals 4. So if you look at it for a second, just think that through, and you'll get 8 and -4. 8 times -4 equals -32. Don't forget that negative sign. And 8 plus -4 or 8 minus 4 equals 4. So we know those are our two things to factor, correct? So we have g minus 4 and g plus 8 equals 0. Zero product property would say g minus 4 equals 0 or g plus 8 equals 0, right? Because remember, these two together, you'll just split it right in half, and you'll have g minus 4 equals 0, g plus 8 equals 0. And then we're going to solve it just like any other equation. And what you end up with is g equals 4 and g equals negative 8. These are our solutions. Example 3. X squared plus 13x equals negative 42. If you want to go ahead and solve that on your own, you can do that. Pause the video, and I'll be continuing right now. Step 1. So, as you can see here, we added our 42 because we want it all to be on one side so it equals 0. If you remember in 9.3, a quadratic equation, this is the standard form. If it equals 0, then you know it's a quadratic equation. So, then we have x squared plus 13x plus 42 equals 0. Now, what we're going to be doing is factoring. What times something else equals 42, but those two numbers added equals 13. So, let's take a look here. The thing that comes to mind for me for 42 would be 7 times 6. And of course, 7 times 6 equals 13. So, in step 2, x plus 7 times x plus 6 equals 0. 7 and 6 added equals 13. 7 and 6 multiplied equals 42. And our solution would be negative 7 and negative 6, because if you go through all the steps we just did after having this, through the whole video, you know it's x plus 7 equals 0 and x plus 6 equals 0. Solve the equation and you get x equals negative 7, x equals negative 6. Those are your two solutions. Thank you for listening. This has been Lesson 9.4 with Carter J. Howarth. I hope you learned a lot, and this will be Carter Howarth signing off.